Hello everyone. In the previous video we have looked at traditional locators in order to identify the web elements in the DOM. And now let's have a look also at relative locators. These locators are useful when we cannot identify a web element using the traditional locators. And we have this option to identify the web element in relation to another web element which can be identified on the page. In this video we will look at some relative locators like above, below, left of or right of. What we need is a web element which can be identified using one of the traditional locators. Let's assume this web element is this heading Selenium IDE. And based on this we want to find some web elements which are located above, below, right or left. So the first step is to identify the XPath for this web element. Let's open the developer tools. So let's write the XPath in order to identify this heading. This is the XPath for our heading. We are using the text in order to identify the XPath. So now let's switch to Visual Studio and start using the relative locators. We'll use the driver object and call the findElement method. This time we will use the relative by class. And we have to pass a by object. Let's have a look at this web element. And as we can see, this is h4. Let's use this tag in order to identify this web element. Tag name and pass the name of the tag. And now we can call right of based on the XPath we already know. In order to verify we get back the web element we want, let's get the text for this web element. Now for left off, let's assume we want to identify the other heading which is left of Selenium IDE. In this case would be Selenium WebDriver. Let's inspect this, and as we can see this is also h4. And here we use the left of relative locator, everything else is similar. Now let's use the below relative locator. And for this, let's assume we want to identify this button here. Let's inspect it. So let's use this. Okay, there it is. We call the below method. And here is our tag name. For this video, please note we are using the tag name, but in general, you can use any of the other locators which the by class offers. And now to test the above locator, we will look at this heading. Let's inspect it. And as we can see, this is h2 tag. So there it is. We use the above relative locator based on the XPath we already know. And the element we want to look at has this h2 tag name. It's also important to mention we can chain multiple relative locators. In this sample, we search for h4 heading, which is left of our known XPath, and below this web element. Or in other words, we are looking for a heading which is left of Selenium IDE and also below this getting starting heading. So in this case would be the Selenium WebDriver, which is also heading h4. Before running the test, let's do one more thing, which is to add all those strings in a file so we can easily verify our relative locators. Okay, so there it is. We have a list of strings which contains the text we want to verify. Now let's give it a run. As expected, the test case has passed. Let's also check the results file. So let's have a look. Here we search for a heading which is right of Selenium IDE. And here we have this Selenium grid, which is okay. The second sample, we identify a heading which is left of Selenium IDE. We get Selenium WebDriver. Here we search for a link which is below Selenium IDE. Let's have a look, which is read more. Here we search for a heading which is above Selenium IDE, which is getting started. And in the last scenario, we search for a heading which is left of Selenium IDE and also below getting started, which is Selenium WebDriver. So that would be all for relative locators. Thank you very much for your time and see you at the next one. Bye.